Okay, well, I'm super excited to be here today to talk to y'all about text messaging and how you can incorporate it into your business. And before we get into the presentation, just a little bit about me. My name is Dan Pratt. I'm one of the co-founders here at Broadloom. I'm also the Chief Revenue Officer. Some people like to call me the taller, slightly more attractive version of Todd. Before starting Broadloom, I worked on the AdWords team at Google. That's actually where Todd and I met. And our job was to partner with small businesses across the country and really help them understand the best ways to leverage technology to grow those businesses online. Now, I love small businesses, mostly because I grew up in a family that was run by small business owners. My parents were actually one of the very first franchisees for Subway sandwiches. And a little fun fact about myself is that growing up, I never went on vacations. My parents would, during the summer, would have to go to these Subway conferences every year. So it would be Orlando or Las Vegas. So they'd bring us along to these Subway conferences, and I feel like it really set me up for success for situations like this. They're very, very similar to a flooring conference, a little less flooring samples, a little more deli meats, but other than that, it's pretty much identical. So before we get into the presentation today, I just want to do a quick poll by show of hands. How many of you here are still sending direct mail to your customers today? Direct mail, coupons, flyers, etc. Okay. Okay, perfect. How many of you send emails to your customers today? Okay, quite a bit. What about faxes? Telegrams? No? Okay. What about text messages? Wow, okay. Now, when you're sending text messages to your clients, are you sending them just directly from your phone? Or are you using a service like Podium or, okay, got a few Podium customers here today. So the reason why I wanted to start here was to say that messaging isn't a new thing, right? We've been messaging in various ways for a very long time, but over time, the way that we message has changed. It's grown, it's evolved, and text messaging is actually becoming the single most important thing that a business owner can leverage to connect with their customers. And during today's presentation, we're going to go over a few things. We're going to talk a little bit about what your customers want. That's really important. You want to be changing as your consumers' interest changes, and you want to do things in a way that makes things easy for them. We're going to go over the do's and the don'ts of texting. This is really important for a number of different reasons. If you don't text the right way, just like in a relationship, things aren't going to end well for you. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about how you make it work for your business. And in that conversation, we'll talk a little bit about Podium and the best ways for businesses to leverage that technology today through the FloorForce platform. So what do your customers want today? As I said earlier, customers or consumers in general are increasingly choosing text message over every other form of communication. And I think about myself, right? I like everyone else, I buy products, and we'll talk a little bit more about the journey that I had with buying a couch recently. But when I can text message a business to make that transaction as easy as possible, I'm more likely to buy from that person. So we think a lot about data here at Broadloom. It really guides every piece of content that we create, every decision that we make. And so I wanted to just run through a few numbers with the group here to show you how much text messaging has grown over the years as a form of communication in the business sense. So 2018, only 15% of customer interactions involve some sort of mobile messaging. 15%, not that high. In 2022, it's projected that it's going to grow to 70%. And it's not going to slow down, right? We all have phones in our pockets, and the easiest way to communicate with people is by sending them some sort of mobile message, and texting is obviously the most popular version of mobile messaging. So it's really important that you start to adopt this type of technology if you want to continuously connect with customers today. So 90% of customers prefer texting, and 99% of texts get read. That number is insane. 99% of texts get read. If we're talking about emails, right, so most of you are sending emails to your customers today, and as someone that oversees the marketing department here at Broadloom, I would be happy if 15 to 20% of the emails that we send out get read. But with text, you're seeing 99% read rates. That's insane. And again, consumers overwhelmingly prefer when businesses use text as a form of communication. I mentioned this a few seconds ago, but I recently bought my first adult couch, so a couch that wasn't found at IKEA. And I'm a psycho when it comes to research, right? So I use spreadsheets for everything. And when I started the buying process for this couch, I did a bunch of research, right? I found a handful of furniture suppliers in my area, and I started reaching out, right? Some folks wanted to only communicate through email, and other folks wanted to text. There's actually only one furniture company that was willing to text, and that was the company I purchased from. They made the experience so easy for me, right? I didn't have to open up my email. I didn't get buried with a bunch of other messages. It was front and center in my inbox, my text inbox, that it was easy for me as a consumer to work with those guys over anyone else. And so when we're thinking about texting and using it as part of your communication strategy with your customers, ease of use is really important and something we'll dive into in a little bit here. So again, messaging isn't new, right? It started with the telegram, then direct mail, then catalogs were a thing for a long time. It evolved into email. That was revolutionary, and it still is. People should be leveraging email. But if you're not thinking about text as another form of communication with your customers, you're putting yourself, your business, at a disadvantage. And again, the data backs it up. We just talked about the 99% open rates. And comparing that to email, not even close, right? If you send a text message to someone, there's almost 100% chance that they're going to open up and read it. We also see 95% of text open within 3 minutes. So it's a really fast form of communication. Again, when I look at my inbox at the end of the day, I'm buried in emails. And so having the mental capacity to go through each one and respond, it can check me out sometimes. My text message, for whatever reason, I feel a lot different, right? I'm going to usually respond to those as soon as they hit my phone. 209% higher response rate than phone, email, or Facebook. Again, as consumers, we want to make sure that as we're messaging to consumers, we want to make sure we're choosing the different platforms that increase the likelihood of a response, and text messaging is a really great way to do that. Over 65% of consumers think that texting local businesses is more convenient. So I'd give that example of me purchasing a couch. I chose the person that was willing to text me. It was easier for me as a consumer to interact with that group. The one metric here, though, that I want to point out to everyone and spend a little bit of time on is the 12% of local businesses that are using texting as a marketing tool today. That shows me that there's a huge amount of opportunity for businesses like yours to take advantage of a platform that hasn't had a ton of adoption yet. When you're talking about email, when you're talking about Facebook, these are platforms that a lot of companies have adopted, and so you're dealing with a bunch of competition. When you're thinking about text messaging, that's not much of an issue. So what does this mean for you and your business? Ultimately, it means that you should be leveraging new forms of technology, specifically texting, to create inroads with your customers. And again, I mentioned earlier, there's a good way to do it and a bad way to do it. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of texting, because again, if you just saying yes to texting isn't going to get you all the way there, right? You want to make sure that you follow a few set of rules to make sure that as you're communicating with your customers, they are receptive, right? You're not overwhelming them, and so we're going to go over a few things to show you how to do it the right way. All right, so the first do is to add text messaging to your website. Now, we have partnered with Podium. They're a premier chat provider, and they make it really easy for businesses to open up texting on their website. And they create this experience where a customer can hit their website, and instead of filling out a lead form or sending an email, they can chat right into your team. And on your side, we'll show you what it looks like towards the end of today's presentation, but you get all those messages in one neat little inbox. On the consumer side, they're going to get responses from your team directly on their phone. And so they're not having to sit there in front of your website waiting for a response. I feel like I find myself in that situation multiple times when dealing sometimes with customer support. They can actually take their phone with them, get your text messages, continue the conversation. And so it's really important, again, to put these really easy ways to text your business on your website in a way that is going to be front and center with your customers. So the next do here is use conversational language. So the real value of texting and why it's different than email is how effortless it can seem for the people that you're communicating with. And so you want to appeal to them by keeping messages lighthearted and conversational, right? Again, text is a great medium to just fire off a few quick thoughts. And you don't want to burden the folks that are receiving these messages in a way where they have to read pages and pages and pages. So you want to keep it short and sweet. And when I'm thinking about consumers today and how trends have changed, they want to engage with the brands that they buy from. And so when you're writing these messages, or folks on your team are writing these messages, it's important to be creative. One of the things that we do is we use emojis. And we use it sparingly, right? Like we're not doing things the way that my mom does, where half the text message is filled with emojis. But we're doing small things to create these little engagement experiences with our potential customers to show that there's a real human behind the scenes. Because another thing that consumers don't like is feeling like they're having an autoresponder hit their phone or their inbox. And so you want to keep things conversational, you want to keep things creative, and you want to do it in such a way that feels natural, because texting is one of the more human-like ways that we can communicate with customers today. The next do is send during business hours. You're not going to make too many people happy if you're sending a message at 4 a.m. Now, some of the technology we'll talk about today enables you to schedule out your text communications, right? So even if you're up at 4 a.m. and you got a whole inbox of people to respond to, schedule them out. 8:30, 9 o'clock, business hours where people are more likely to see it, engage with it, and respond to it. Simple messages work best. So you want to make sure that ideally the text that you send are 160 characters or less. And you want to avoid complex messages that could be misinterpreted or misunderstood. A lot of folks that we work with use text messages to share out promotions. And so as you're thinking about the different marketing strategies that you're going to deploy via text messaging, make sure that you add the right level of context for the people that are getting these messages, right? So include the dates of the promotion that you're running, how much the promotion is for. You would be amazed how little information some folks provide over texting. So again, you want to find that sweet spot, that balance of not overwhelming someone with the information, but providing the key points so they can make informed buying decisions. The next one here is provide value. So this is something that we talk about internally at Broadloom all the time, right? We want to provide value to folks like you before you ever spend a dollar on the services that we offer today. It's how our marketing team operates, right? And we think about that through content. And I know a lot of folks in the audience today think about content as a way to promote their businesses. Might be a television ad or YouTube ad, blog content. You can incorporate that into texting in a way that informs a consumer before they're ready to make a buying decision. So a good example of this is if you guys have a blog and you're talking about the differences between hardwood and LVP, and your customer is kind of wavering between the two, and they're asking you a bunch of questions over text, send them the blog link. Let them read through, educate themselves. It's a really good way to create, again, those engagement experiences that's a little bit more difficult to do when you're thinking about more meatier forms of communication like email. You also want to consider running special promotions to build trust. So you can create campaigns as part of your text strategy that are different from email, right? So people that are on your text list that gave you their phone number, maybe you run a 10% off, 5% off promotion to really help build the trust in the system and create, again, those more engaging opportunities. This is really important, and it's not just true for texting, but all forms of marketing. You want to include some sort of call to action, right? A text for the sake of a text is not going to do you any favors. You want to drive some sort of action with your customers, and you want to make it clear. So, a couple of examples that I have here is, something like order a sample, right? If someone's asking about a specific product and you could have a sample there, make it really easy for them. We do that pretty simply on the FloorForce platform with all the products that we have sampleable. You send them to the website, they put it in their cart, and like an e-commerce transaction, those products will be shipped to them in just a couple of days. But it could also be things like schedule a visit to the showroom. Let's connect in person. Let's answer these questions for you and make sure that you have all the information you need before you make a buying decision, or even something like leave a review, right? You spend all that time and energy getting someone to buy something from your showroom. Leaving a review is a simple way for you to create this feedback loop that could inspire other people that are thinking about working with you to buy from you as well. And then you can add links to your messages to drive some of these actions, right? So I mentioned sampling. We see a lot of customers today send out the link to their sample form on the website. Makes it really easy for customers to pick up those samples right from their website. Responding in real time is really important as well. So again, when I'm thinking about email, right, I think about we schedule emails out at 8 a.m. Some people look at them, archive them right away. Other folks might respond, but there's a delay in that communication between us as the business owners and the consumers that are reading these emails. The cool thing about text messaging is it's real time, right? It's one of the reasons why someone like me prefers to text my friends versus giving them a call. It's just an easier way for that back and forth to happen. And so if you want to commit to leveraging text messaging as part of your business, you also want to make sure that whoever is owning this inside of your company knows that the interaction should be pretty fast. So again, we use Podium at Broadloom, and we've gamified this inside of our company, right? We take a look at the response times, the average response times that we see for the team that oversees this, and we set goals. We say, can we keep the average response time under a minute, under 45 seconds, under 30 seconds? And you'd be amazed how much that incentivizes people to be the first one to respond. Again, you create sort of a gamification aspect to it all. But it's really important on the consumer side, right? Because as people are making their decisions on who to work with, the folks that take 2, 3, 4 days to get back to you, those people are long in the past. If you can reach out to someone immediately, you're already starting to do what you need to do to build that trust in the consumer. This is a simple one, but it works wonders, just like in real life. If you can use someone's real name in the conversation, you're building trust, and you want to do the same thing in your text messages. It creates a feeling of importance, right? You're building those relationships. They're not just a number on a spreadsheet. So it's a small way you can create an engagement opportunity without having to overburden your teams. We talk a lot about performance here at Broadloom, so the next one is tracking performance. Any person that's running any sort of marketing campaign should always be tracking. And if this is a tool that you feel like you want to leverage, you should be keeping tabs on what's working and what's not working. One of the things that we do with our marketing team is we run 2-week sprints, right? So we say, this is something that we want to test. It's the only thing we're going to test for 2 weeks, and we're going to throw everything that we have at it. And after the 2 weeks, we analyze the data, and we start to understand what worked about that strategy and what didn't. Can we make small changes to increase things like the click rate or the response time? And it factors into the next 2-week sprint that we do. And so something like this is really important as you try to just really hone in on the best strategies, the right way of messaging in terms of the forms of communication that you're leveraging so that your customers are always getting the best experience. All right, so let's talk about the don'ts. The worst thing you can do is send too many messages too quickly, right? And I used the dating analogy before, I'll use it again. When you're courting someone and you send 15 messages in a row, they're probably not going to go on a second date with you. And so the most important thing when you're using a piece of technology like this, and really any form of communication, is to not overburden the person with information. 1 to 2 messages is what we recommend, but do so in a way that, again, is engaging and provides value. Don't use slang. We've had our issues with this, right? And this is an important thing to train your teams up on, right? It's conversational, it's human-like. You should lean into the creativity, but you're also a business. You want to be professional. Using slang can create an erosion of trust and make it feel like you're not going to be taken seriously. Don't forget to identify yourself. I mentioned earlier, only about 15% of businesses are leveraging texting as part of their communication strategy. And that's good in a lot of ways, right? It's a huge opportunity for you guys. At the same time, on the consumer end, it might come across as a little bit weird. They may have never interacted with the business before as it relates to a text. And so you want to make sure that it doesn't come across as spammy. And so a really good way of doing this is identifying yourself. So making sure that the person that you're communicating with understands that it's Dan at Dan's Flooring Company, right? Hope to see you at Dan's Flooring Company soon. Small ways that you can tweak your messages to build that trust and that familiarity so people aren't just ignoring them or deleting them. It's really important, again, to not ignore opt-in or opt-out rules. So when someone says, hey, listen, I know I signed up for this, I'm actually not interested, I want to work with someone else, stop texting me, listen to them, take them off the list. Don't keep sending them messages. It should be no different than email, right? When someone unsubscribes from your email, we have tools now that automate the fact that those folks won't get any more emails from your business. You want to apply that same logic when you're texting as well. Again, you don't want a bad review to come from too much badgering in this form of text messaging. All right, so those were the do's and the don'ts. Let's talk a little bit about making text messaging work for you, and then we'll get into some Q&A. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions about the best ways to leverage texting. So I mentioned this earlier, but FloorForce and Podium have a really, really awesome integration. And for those of you that don't know, Podium is the premier messaging platform that's trusted by over 60,000 businesses across the country. It's basically a tool that you add to your website, and it makes it really easy for your team to communicate with your customers via text message, and then also takes all of those messages and puts them into one place so that you're not having to deal with this person texting on one phone, another person texting on another. It simplifies the entire process for a business owner. Now, this is available for all FloorForce customers under the premium package, and then any FloorForce customer that's in the Flooring Stores United program. And the cool thing about how we've built the integration is that all of the leads that are collected via text are embedded directly into your Dealer HQ dashboard. So Dealer HQ, for those of you that don't know, is a leads and reporting dashboard that's available for FloorForce customers. All that information is in your dashboard, so you can access it at any time. So here's how it works, right? We talked about this a little bit already, but you add a piece of code to your website, which gives customers the ability to text you again right from your website. You're able to capture the information just like you would any other lead form, so name, phone number, email address, and the person's able to send you whatever message that they want. We see the gamut across some of our FloorForce customers. Some folks are asking qualifying questions. Maybe they're further down the buying process, and they are, they're between two products. They want to make sure that the one that they want to choose is the perfect one for them. So they might have a couple questions for your team. Your team reaches out to them, easy peasy. They make the purchase. Others are much earlier in the buying process. They don't know what they want, right? And so it might seem pretty vague, but just like any phone call that you would get or any email that you would get with someone saying, hey, I want brown carpet, it's an opportunity for you and your salespeople to create, again, more engagement opportunities and get them closer to the products that they want. Again, the prospect information is automatically stored in Dealer HQ, so it's easy to access for your team. You're never going to lose these leads, and we want to make sure that, again, the follow-up process is nice and seamless. Okay, so what does the chat functionality look like? It looks like any other chat or text messages that you've seen before. And the cool thing about the way that Podium works is you really have two options to communicate with your customers as it relates to chat. The first is on your computer, right? So you have what's called a Podium inbox. That inbox contains all of the chats that everyone on your team that has access to Podium is sending out. And you're also able to download a Podium app, which gives you the ability to chat right from your phone as well. So the mobile aspects of this are also really interesting. We understand that retailers are busier than ever, especially over the last few months. And so if you can, again, take your phone with you and chat when customers come in, or chat with customers as they're texting, again, in real time, that seamless experience is something that we see consumers really, really engage with. And the last thing here before we open it up to Q&A is how it works in terms of coordinating with your team. So Podium makes it really simple for you to assign different members of your team different leads that come in through the Podium platform. And so the way that we see some of our retailers have this set up is they basically create different pods within the Podium platform. So it could be a sales pod or a support pod. And then all the leads that are sales driven get funneled to the sales guys. All the support leads get driven to the support people. So it's a good way to organize who's communicating with who. and also internally a really easy way for your team to communicate, right? So if someone has a question about one of the customers that they're communicating with via text message, your team can behind the scenes be communicating through the internal Podium communication channels to make sure that you're aligned before responding to a customer. The other cool thing here is you're able to leverage other capabilities that you can with text, like photos, right? So if someone's interested in what something looks like, you can snap a photo right in your showroom, text it to them right away. And then also video. Video is also a capability within Podium for an extra fee, but you're able to basically take a Zoom-like video experience and leverage that in your communication right from the text message itself. So you go from texting someone to sending them a picture to hopping on a video call and walking them through the best options that are available to them. Again, it's all about creating these experiences that create more engagement with your customers. So that's all I have for you today. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about Podium, texting. We'll start in the back. Yep, as long as you have the phone numbers, you can upload those all to Podium, and then you can start to segment them out, right? So you can say, I want to run a campaign that gives this segment of customers a 5% off coupon. You can create that segmentation, and only those folks would get the 5% off coupon. Follow me? So let me understand this question. So the phone numbers that you uploaded into Podium were incorrect? Got it.
So they had a direct mail campaign, and they were able to match 60% of those customers with their cell phone. So there was a cell phone message sent. So many people get upset. Hey, how did you get my cell phone?
Yeah, my first recommendation would be to use Podium. So that's a little Podium plug. But I would say, yeah, as part of those data transfers, it's really important to make sure that before, it's a little bit difficult in your situation, right? Because you didn't know who those customers were. But for a typical retailer example, you're going to have a spreadsheet essentially that says this is this person's name, their phone number, their email, et cetera. It's important to just do a double check before any upload. So I would recommend, the person responsible for this internally does that quick once over, make sure everything is connecting. Then the upload should be pretty seamless from there.
Use it with the known customers, not the unknown.
Yeah, I would say if you have someone's name and phone number, it's a good option for you.
Thank you.
Of course.
One thing we didn't mention, I've been using Podium for a little over a year now.
Yep.
Also a great way to ask for reviews. They have templates you can set up that automatically put your name in, someone from your phone number, ask for a review. It's a one-click review step, and it really simplifies that for our store.
100%. Yeah. Again, it doesn't have to just be used to get people to a sale, right? It can also be used as sort of a follow-up technique that gets those reviews in, and you can automate that as well, right? So after certain actions happen, boom, they get a text message that says, "What'd you think of your experience? Would be great if you left a review here." You add the link and the call to action, and then you're off to the races. Okay.
You mentioned about the response time, responding. How do you stop somebody from being on your website at 11 o'clock at night and sending you a text message?
It's a good question, yeah. And so we see that all the time, right? The cool thing about Podium is you can set up an autoresponder for non-business hours, right? So if you know that your team isn't going to be in the office, the autoresponder should go up. And all that autoresponder has to say is, "Thank you so much for reaching out. We can't wait to connect with you. Our offices are open from this time to this time." Yeah, I'm pretty sure you. Wait, say that one more time.
So I get an email when I don't respond within 5 minutes.
If they respond back to that, you will get an email that you didn't respond.
That's correct.
Yeah, it does. Yep. Yeah, so I guess I can talk with somebody.
Yeah, we can talk with the. Absolutely.
I'm very interested in utilizing it more. It's just
make sure it works for your context. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we can talk about this after. Yeah.
So we used to have Podium for the reviews, and then when we went to Creator Space, we actually went to a different review program, so we're no longer using Podium. So is it different modules, or is it just like you were talking, these guys were talking about, you set it up, this, you just, it's how you manipulate it?
Yeah, absolutely.
For different things, but it's not like it's different modules.
Yeah, so Podium, as far as our integration with Podium, doesn't include the review functionality. So it's just the live chat and text messaging functionality. We use a service called Birdeye to power our ratings and reviews, which is an incredible service if you're not leveraging it already. But it doesn't mean that you can't drive people to leave reviews, right? As long as you have the link to where people can leave reviews on your website, that would be a great way to leverage, you know, the direct action that you want someone to take via the text message through the Podium ecosystem. But yeah, Podium, as far as like the platform outside of our integration, has a few other capabilities. The good thing about working with us and Podium simultaneously is because we were able to buy so many licenses at scale, we were able to negotiate the rate for Podium down significantly. I won't go into the specifics on stage here, but if you're curious, we can talk after. And that's giving you 99% of the functionality.
And if you're the Florida Storage United, then it's automatic.
It's part of that package. Say that one more time. Yep. Yeah, it takes a little bit to integrate it into your website. We say 30 days maximum, but it's usually a week or so to get it up and running.
Weird question.
Go for it. Right. So like any other form of communication, you're going to get the weird spam messages that come in. So no different from email or phone call. It was just an untextable number. Got it. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, right? If for whatever reason the text isn't going through, it might be a landline, and so giving that number a call. Mark, do you have any idea of how that works?
They're typing on the computer their number, which is their landline number, and then you get the message, but you can't call that number. That's why they're just using a computer. They're on a desktop computer. They see your chat thing. They put in their own phone number. I need this, and then you can't call them.
Yeah, landline versus cell.
That's not to say the extent of warranties don't come to occasion.
Right.
On that same thing, they also try to call that number from time to time.
Yep.
What shows up? Do you know what number shows up?
So,
How they create a number on their end?
yeah, I believe the way that it works is Podium sends them a message that says, this is not the right number, sends the number of the phone number that they should call for your business, and then it starts the Podium process all over again. So they're provided the right information to make the phone call.
Is there a way you can see the interaction on both sides? Because you know, I see what I see on my side. But can you see the interaction on the other side, like when you send it back, like what it looks like to them? Because I hear everybody talking about like, I don't know how to describe this, but I would just like to see the entire interaction from when they're on the computer sending you a message, what it looks like back. Is it just going right to their phone like a text message?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So when they're on your website, it looks like any sort of chat widget on a website. On the text message, it looks like any other text message.
Started on the computer, it shoots back to their
That's correct. Yep, it's on their phone.
It comes from a random number.
It comes from the Podium number that's assigned.
And you said if they want to call, if they were,
If they try to call the Podium number, Podium sends them a message with your phone number.
oh, okay,
Right,
so that's automatically done.
right.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I sometimes get a message that says missed phone call.
It just says miss phone call.
Somebody has tried to call the number back, and this is missed phone call.
So the message itself is miss phone call, or
The message says missed phone call. Occasionally, we've even seen voicemail.
huh? I haven't heard of that before, but let's talk about it after, and I can figure out what's going on there.
On that subject,
Yep.
on my iPhone, I get what's called a silenced call numerous times a day. Is that, I'm trying, I have Apple, I have AT&T.
Yeah, I don't think that's a Podium issue necessarily. Got it. So it's a silence phone call in terms of. Got it. Let's connect with our product team after this and figure out. That seems like it might be a bug, but we can talk through it. Yeah. Yep. Got it. See it in the preview screen. That's good feedback. Not at this point, but it's something that we're working on to make sure all the leads are funneling in the same way. Again, it is integrated with Dealer HQ, and so if you have Dealer HQ enabled and you're using that on a day-to-day basis just to track all the leads in your ecosystem, Podium's going to be included in it. But it is part of our process to continue to develop on the RLM platform.
On that note, is the end goal for all of these products to eventually just be one place, one thing?
It's the all-in-one platform, yeah. So it's a great question and something that the team is working really, really hard on right now. The goal is to streamline everything so that when you're in leads mode, you have the tools available at your disposal to focus on that. When you're thinking about things on the ERP side of things, you have those tools. And so integrations take a little bit of time. And so that's a big project for the team right now as we get closer and closer to the all-in-one platform. It's called Bird Eye. Yep. And we can talk more about that if you're interested. Which one you're on? Yep, it should be Bird Eye, but we can talk more about it if you're interested. Any other questions? All right, thanks y'all, appreciate it.